back of this group like a cork out of a champagne bottle. He's gone exactly in the wrong direction. Our race leader brings them on to Döttinger for the first time, and he's what, 5-6 car lengths in front. That's not safe. There's a 5-car slipstreaming train behind him, and they are all going to concertina up, and they've all thrown the line out, and they're going to be reeling him in. Number 2 Audi makes a move for second place out of the slipstream, and he is now going to make the double pass for the lead. The Audi is flashing the headlights of the BMW. Down Döttinger, they're still on the rev limiter in top gear. The BMW just has enough distance to the fast left-hander at Christoph Dierenbrücker, and the Audi can't quite get through. So up to second place has gone the Audi from 9th at the restart.
And the 29 Mercedes-Benz plus sorry, what we've not seen is going to change the leader again. It's the 22 car ahead now, not the 18.
Oh, you're right, absolutely.
The BMWs have changed places out in the mist somewhere.
So that must have happened between Brunchen and the Mini Carousel, because we didn't see that. And in fact, we now have the number 22 BMW. So we have got your change of lead, Paul. It's just the different leader. 22, 2 and 29. And then across the line in 4th place is the number 18 BMW that led most of that lap, ahead of the number 8 and the number 88 Haribo Mercedes. Number 4 Mercedes with Bernd Schneider up has moved up to 7th, because number 9 is down to 9th place, and the number 2 Audi being passed by the Mercedes on the run down to the Dunlop hairpin, but he's gone too wide. Can he hold it? I'm not sure about that. I think the Audi has got a bit of a run, and the leaders are catching one of the tail enders. Is that 155 has gone off again? 115 rather, has gone off in avoidance. Saw something coming in the mirrors and went off on the exit of the second element of the Schumacher S, and a change for second place.
Yes, that BMW was just out of the pit lane. He'd come down the pits, and I thought, oh, he's going a bit faster than 60 kilometres an hour as he came down the pit lane. He'd come out of the pits and was just getting ready for to get back, but then got rather monstered by all those leading GT3 cars, the SP9 class cars coming up behind him.
So in second place is the dark grey and lime green Mercedes, and the number 2 Audi shuffled back down to 3rd position.
Second, we're getting our timing glitch, I'm afraid. It's going to be confusing for a little wee while yet.
No, because there's the BMW that leads the race. The BMW still in front, the Mercedes in second. So it is the Rowe Racing BMW. Well, I managed to get away without saying Mercedes there, and I preceded that with Rowe Racing. Is that £1 to me? Am I earning some of it back?
No, just being correct, you don't get paid extra for, Martin.
Oh, come on, it's so seldom I have that opportunity. But good restart as well from the number 5 Audi.
That's interesting, because that is the one Audi that's actually running on Dunlop tyres, and that's, I must admit, I think it's one of the fancied runners. It's done very well so far in VLN competition. That 18 car that we thought might lead that lap is now being shuffled back down. It's been passed already by one of the 2 Haribo cars, and I think it's about to be passed by the other.
88 looked left, looked right, looked left, on the grass almost on the left-hand side as they got to the top of the hill and up to the Vidal chicane. Oh, he did have wheels on the grass on the climb up towards the Vidal chicane on the driver's left. That was, well, not big Australian balls, which is what Daniel Ricciardo claimed helped him to pole position, but it was certainly a fair degree of cojones there. So we still have our BMW leading the field. The Rowe Racing BMW starting to ease away. So what happened to the number 9 Mercedes that led most of that led the first part of the race? Why did it not have any speed at the restart? And suddenly what happened to the car that led the entire lap and then almost made it across the line as the leader, but didn't lead on to Döttinger and is now dropped down to 5th place? What's going on with these cars?
In effect, Martin, the number 9 car was some 15 seconds slower on the lap. Now, what I didn't manage to work out was exactly where on the lap, which of the 5 sector times that we have coming up here, which of those particular sectors was the biggest loser for it. But it usually with something like that is just the driver perhaps not taking as many risks, not pushing it as hard, because there is no point. I mean, whilst this is great and it's exciting and it's good to see door-handle to door-handle racing, there should be on every driver's steering wheel a big tape with no risk written on it.
Don't be stupid.
Because when you're doing that kind of going onto the grass, overtaking moves, it is just so close, and you're so inches from disaster sometimes, and you can't afford to do that. This is a 24-hour race.
Well, maybe then we should be, instead of wondering what happened to the number 9 Mercedes driver, wondering what happened to everybody else, because there have been some fairly substantial risks taken. I mean, it's the Nürburgring, it's gloomy, and it's very wet, so risk is a given, but the attempt by the number 2 Audi, for instance, to pass for the lead down into the first corner on the Grand Prix circuit saw him go squirrely, locked up on the white lines on the outside, and very nearly not make it all the way round. We've seen a couple of cars entering into the pit lane. We've seen one car go off. We've just seen a spin for the number 35 Nissan, so that seemed to be fairly harmless. But we've also got what appear to be regular pit callers, or perhaps the first of our regular pit callers, and Paul, our timing screen still hasn't adjusted itself. It's still an SP3T car that is shown as the leader. So
yeah, I have noticed that, and
I know
that doesn't actually help what I'm trying to do here, because whilst the screens are showing wrong, all of my data is working on the same screens, and so I'm getting some very
confused.
I'm getting some very odd things coming to show up now, but we'll battle through it. The guys at Vega Timing will sort it out, I'm convinced, and once they sort their system out, then my systems will sort themselves out automatically.
Yeah. Would say, by the way, that number 9 Mercedes-Benz, crossed the line in the lead, of course, is now down out of the top 10 in SP9, and is being beaten up by yet another group of battling SP9s in what, it has to be said, are still remarkably challenging conditions. We can see now the car, the number 9 has fallen back behind the 912. What I think we have to now say is the surviving of the Manthey factory cars.
Yeah, well, it's the only Manthey factory car. I think they wrote 911 off long before it got stuck in traffic and all of that. So, I mean, conditions are very, very tough indeed. Visibility is all but non-existent. And this is where track knowledge and knowledge of your car as well has such a phenomenal difference when you're trying to race wheel to wheel with somebody on a track where there is almost no wheel-to-wheel racing space. There are going to be mistakes from both drivers. If you're behind somebody, it's really only a matter, and fairly short matter of time before he makes a mistake. You've just got to make sure you're not sucked into making the same mistake with him, because that's the real possibility, is that if he goes off, you brake as late as him and you go off as well. So it's knowledge of the track that will allow you not to make that mistake, while the driver in front may have less knowledge and does go off slightly.
Should say the lap times at the moment down into 10 minutes 20 seconds. We have another incident, it's at the 354. BMW M235 having a very, very slippery moment. Stays, I think, out the barriers, but just barely. 304, my apologies.
Good spot, and that is the Bonk Motorsport M235i. That's a Cup 5 class car. Oh, that was the leader in the class.
My fingers probably not anymore.
I think it had already lost the lead of the class because it had made a pit stop earlier on.
Right.
But it did make it back to the pits in the end, and so that's another pit stop for that car. So
we just got a quick shot of that car down into 93rd position, and stationary in pit lane as the team attend to it. But 10 minutes 22 is about the kind of pace for the quickest of these SP9 cars at the moment. That's broadly, Paul, the kind of pace at 10:21 we saw in the worst of the weather in the qualifying session.
In the night qualifying session, as opposed to the top 30 qualifying session. Yes, absolutely right. So yeah, when it gets slow, it gets wet, and you're down into the 10-minute 20-somethings, which is round about 2 minutes slower than a good dry time would be around the Nordschleife.
And possibly kind of significantly, that pace is dropping off in the order in which the cars are coming by, and that's going to be in no small part because of the issues of spray. So we've got a couple of the two lead cars at the moment, the 22 and the number 2 Audi, lapping in the 10:22s, and from there on in, the times are dropping off pretty sharply.
Yeah, and that's because they have better visibility and less traffic to deal with, presumably.
Still plenty of daylight, I have to say. It looked as if it was going to get a lot darker a lot quicker.
Well, it was darker half an hour earlier,
that would have been
it was darker, and
clouds.
we're heading towards night time rather than heading away from dawn, and it was definitely much darker. What the problem is, although generally the visibility where there's visibility is better, where there isn't, I'm afraid that's not going to change much. The fact that the air around these sort of very low foggy, cloudy sections is brighter doesn't help you. You know, when you're driving down the motorway and you go from good visibility into a dense bank of fog, when you're in the fog, it doesn't matter that there's good visibility on either side. You're still in it.
And mist has descended now on the first part of the Dottingerhurst, so we don't get that classic sight of the cars all the way back down. What we see is headlights coming out of the mist.
Yeah. And the Gorillas are charging underneath our camera position. It's still BMW, Mercedes. Those two are pulling away, though, from what is now a Singleton car in third place.
It should be the Audi. It should be the number two
Audi. And again, you know, a car that looked like it was going to take the lead last lap is now the better part of 6 or 7 seconds behind. A very close battle for the lead. And cars would do well to avoid the curbs, even on the Grand Prix circuit, Graham, because
the leader nearly caught out there.
Yeah, very
the final curb of the lap, and very nearly lost control. Gathered it back up again.
Just about. 22 BMW is now shown as the leader on our timing screen. Squirrels under braking down into the first corner. There's even less grip there than he had allowed for. 29 Mercedes is in second. The number 8 Mercedes is now shown as in third, ahead of the number 88 car, which is some way behind it. Number 2 Audi has dropped back down to fifth. That was the car that was trying to take the lead a lap ago. The number 4 Mercedes is back down to sixth position, ahead of the number 5 Audi and the number 30 Mercedes, Paul.
The timing screen is correct.
Yes.
And it's not going to be correct for long, because what it's going to show is the SP4 cars are going to overtake it again. And the reason they're going to do that is that they have 5 minutes credit on the start, because they started 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after the race leaders did. So what's happened is, because the safety cars squashed them all up together, it effectively has given the lower class cars that started in the second starting group an artificial advantage. So what we're actually seeing is the way that the official scoring
adjusted time
should be. It will eventually wrap itself out because the SP9 cars are going inevitably faster. But we will see this alternation of the times for a little while yet.
Number 304 BMW that we saw having that off and coming into the pit lane has got a separated left front shoulder blades. Number 309 also off in the gravel, and also perhaps more germane to the race, that's on the Grand Prix circuit. And so there is a code 60 there. The leader's going past very slowly up to the Vidal chicane at the end of the Grand Prix lap. More germanely, the number 18 BMW that took the lead at the start and led very nearly the entire first lap has pitted. So not sure whether that was a standard stop, whether they short fueled, because we have been racing now, Paul, for over half an hour. Battle for second place. Number 8 Mercedes jumping away very quickly off the code 60, Graham. Very quickly, too quickly.
Well, let's say very quickly for the moment, but that was real elbows as they went out onto the Nordschleife.
It was code 60 in the braking zone for the Vidal chicane, and he fired his way out past as they turned left. So that's, imagine it being code 60 on the Cooper Straight, and then making a pass as you start the climb through Surtees out onto the Grand Prix loop at Brands Hatch. It was that guy. I'm not sure where the green flag was, but he clearly felt he saw it.
I should say last time around the quick laps were getting quicker, still over 10 minutes, but just over 10 minutes now, so 20 seconds gained by the leaders over the fast laps they were doing in the worst of the weather, so it is clearly a little more drivable for them at the moment. We've
then got about, barring intervention of safety cars, 4 more laps before our quote leader, which is the top SP3T car, stops being our leader, because he's doing about a minute a lap more than our actual fastest cars. So hopefully within 4 laps of now we should have the leaders coming to the top of the leaderboard and not being bounced off.
Except that they'll be coming into the pits for refuelling because they need refuelling very soon.
very, very slow Mercedes. That is the car that has just taken the lead of the race.
No, it's not. I think what's happened there is I think they've gone into a slow zone, and he didn't react quickly enough and has retaken his position. So I think what happened there is that they've come into a slow zone.
Yes,
number
because
120
there is a car
Clio
off on the side.
is off and still making progress and crabbing along.
He's trying. You know what he's doing? He's trying to drive out of the mud, but it is so muddy, and he's on a little slope that runs away from the road, and he can't drive up the slope. It's half a car width from the tarmac, pointing towards the tarmac. He had his foot down, and it was just drifting further down the hill, tail along the barrier, just desperately trying to stay there. So we are getting close to 8:30 local time. We are nearly 5 hours into this race, and another code 60 just onto the Nordschleife as the leaders approached a very slow car crabbing along the side of the track. And they were just getting a little bit caught out in traffic because it is barely possible to see beyond the car in front of you, and I can imagine in this traffic you will end up shooting by somebody who slows marginally, because then you will suddenly see why they have slowed. And there is another rescue vehicle towing a car backwards away from a gravel trap further around. And that'll be, we're still on the run down towards Arenberg, I think, with the lead group. And so perhaps just a little further past that, heading up towards, again, we seem to have a massive disparity of speed among some of the cars that are out on the track. Some of the quicker cars now in slow tail end of traffic. And again, there's another level of difficulty and danger. And now we're starting to see more cars going off. In the gravel is number 33 Audi TT, and this is down at Arenberg. The 33 car collection motorsport car loses it under braking, backs off into the gravel trap at Arenberg. And that's an SP9 car. In fact, that was quite well up in SP9. I might have to have a very quick look. You watch the screen and see what's going on. Talk amongst yourselves. Can't find it quickly enough. Oh no, that's so he wasn't that far up in the class. In fact, he was in 37th in the class. So he is backed off into the gravel trap at Arenberg. That'll be another code 60 zone. He doesn't stand the slightest chance of getting out of that under his own steam. So it'll need a rescue vehicle. The 115 BMW that went off earlier on in front of the leaders is now being passed by the leaders again as they get to the bridge at Adenau. And, now I withdraw that. The Felbermeyer Audi has not only driven himself out, but driven himself out with some style and conviction. He backed up to get himself out of the hole and then drove it straight through and back out onto terra firma on the exit of Arenberg. So we have 19 hours down, which means 5 hours gone in the 24 hours of the Nürburgring 2016. Live on Radio Le Mans, driven by Aston Martin. And with 5 hours on the clock, we have raced for 2 and sat waiting out a rain delay for 3 of them. And the race currently being led, if I can find him on the timing screen, by the number